Hello and good afternoon, good morning. I don't know what time you're listening to this podcast. I'm Katie Tyler and this is the Sociology Staffroom. And today we've got a familiar face, someone we've had on as a guest before, which is Jon Hamer. But if you don't know Jon, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a teacher of about 16 years now. I'm in charge of religious studies, sociology, and PSHE at my school, which means I'm constantly spinning lots of plates and very, very tired all the time, but enjoying it all.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, thank you, first of all, for coming on again and speaking to us. And you obviously are doing very well at spinning those plates because obviously we won't have you back on again. So, thank you. So we're here to talk about ChatGPT, if I've said it correctly. And I know by your, yeah, I know by your own admission, you said like you're not an expert in it, but I don't think anyone really is other than the people that probably are creating it or whatever. And you're having a use of it. I am as well. So it was just great to have a bit of a discussion about it, really.
Yeah, sure.
So for those people that don't know, I think most people have heard of it. Maybe I'm thinking. I know that when we first started talking about it, not many people had, which was probably around sort of January, February time. I think there was still some people that hadn't. But just for those people that don't know, do you want to just say a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I mean, I had to make sure because I said, as you rightly said, I am in no way an expert whatsoever. My brother is into like computer programming, so he would be the person to be able to give you the ins and outs. For me, I had to even look what GPT stood for just to make sure, so I could actually give a proper answer. So I have got it here that ChatGPT actually stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Ooh.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it did. It's probably the next name that Elon Musk is going to give to his next child. But what it actually kind of stands for is it's basically a computer program. It's an AI tool that is has lots and lots of human text. It's studied lots of books. It's had lots and lots of kind of websites that it has access to. It understands human text, human speech, so that you can actually ask it to create documents. You can ask it to create to rewrite things in certain styles. Okay, and it's being used for a kind of a wide range of tasks, and it's not the only AI tool that's out there now. There's other programs like Bing's just created its own one. There's ones that can create images, so it's not just kind of words, but it's also creating images and stuff like that as well, which is being used. I kind of only got into it because my son went, "Hey, Dad, I've heard there's something that can write essays for you at school." And I'm like, "Don't be silly, son. They'd never invent that." And then he let me in on it, and I looked it up and stuff and found it really easy to use and have been using it quite a bit kind of behind the scenes and with my lesson planning and stuff.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm the same. I mean, for me, my husband was using it before I was, and then he told this is the extent of our conversations now. I mean, this is what this is what 10 years of marriage brings you. These are our Friday night conversations.
Yeah.
I said to him, what are you on? And he's like, I'm on ChatGPT, and playing around with that. And that was actually it was over Christmas we were talking about it, as exciting things get. But actually, I was like, literally, it blew my mind when I first came to it, because I was like, I've used a bot before, as in we all have. When we go and trying to make a complaint on a certain company, I'm not going to say who because I'll probably get sued or something by them, and they're like, sorry, we'll put you to a human person. And that's my experience of a bot, where like if you don't say the answer that it expects, it just then refers you anyhow to a human person. Or when you make a telephone call, when it's like, press one, or whatever. And then you came across that, and I was like, oh, like literally. And I think first night, I think I stayed up till rock and roll, 2:00 in the morning, playing around with it. And then I was back on it the next day. And I've done, and I'm sure as you have, I've put in writing the style of, Marge Simpson, or so and so. So I've really I've had some fun, but what obviously we were here to talk about is how do we use it in our lessons. So first of all, my sort of first statement to you: friend or foe? Where do you go with that? There's been a lot about it recently.
I think a lot of people are worried about it. A lot of people are worried about what people can do with it or where it's going to lead to. I'm not old enough to remember when calculators first came in, but I do remember that and I have looked back, and there was this big kind of uproar going, "Oh my word, now we've got calculators, people won't think anymore." And obviously then slowly, education and the world then started using calculators more and utilizing them. And I think that's what it is for me. Friend or foe, for me it's a friend. However, I can understand some people are worried about its impact, but for me it's not going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it's going to be used more and more and more. So I think it is important for us to be able to take advantage of that and take control of it and think, well, all right, rather than being scared of new technology, let's utilize it as much as possible and use it, and if we're going to use it in lessons or use it with students, teach them how to use it, teach them
Mm-hmm.
what its limitations are, teach them what the issues are with it, and guide them through it rather than just going, new technology, burn it with fire. I think it's something that we need to take hold of. Obviously, the newspapers, you keep seeing stories like, AI is gonna take over the world. We're all really scared of the Terminator kind of scenario, and that may happen. We don't know. All to look forward to. But I think it is. Yeah, rather than being concerned, it'd be something that we should actually be utilising more and more with our students because they're going to be using it. That's the thing.
Definitely.
They're going to be using it. So I
Well,
want to be in the game.
it definitely, and weirdly, I knew about it before the students, which really did shock me because I was like, they were going, oh, do you know what? It's been on Snappy Chat for ages, like, or whatever they talk about, the TikTok. And then I was like, oh, right, you haven't. But then I was thinking, well, actually, then I thought about it, well, they probably wouldn't need a tool for it so much initially because they're not running businesses necessarily at this stage where they might need to create like letters or whatever, pro formas. And obviously, as you said, the sort of media at the moment has got a sort of semi-narrative around it being problematic in a variety of ways. One would obviously be confidentiality of information. And I suppose that's the key thing, is if we are going to use it, we're not putting anything sensitive in there, because I think that's one of the arguments, that it can remember names and data and stuff like that. So obviously, that's sort of like the GDRP thing. But I'm interested. So obviously it's a friend for you at the moment. So how have you been using it? How have you been getting your students to use it?
So me personally, I've been using it in my planning to make resources quite a bit. Recently I've been using case studies. So I asked it when we were doing our revision for the exams from the social stratification unit, and I said, right, you write the instructions for it, and you say, create a case study which teaches students about absolute and relative poverty and understand how poverty affects life chances in the UK in contemporary Britain. And then I said, it must include at least 5 questions. And then it goes, there you go. And now I don't then just automatically go, there you go, that's my work done, because no, it has its limitations. And some of it I might look at and go, oh no, my students wouldn't understand that. Actually, that bit's slightly inaccurate because it's not 100% perfect. This is the thing. We've got to accept that it says that. It says it's, in its own kind of limitations. It says, I sometimes get things wrong. It also says I sometimes say things which may endanger people. That's a worry. But again, it says it knows these things. So to create these case studies, and I found that's really useful with my students, because it's like, here's Jeff. Jeff lives in this area, and it teaches them the definitions. It explains it, and that's been really, really handy. Also, was handy for me is I had a colleague in the department who was off sick. And they were unwell. They weren't able to create their own, cover lessons. So I said, okay, don't worry, I'll do that. Obviously, on top of other things that I have to do. So I was able to So I was able to create worksheets and said, right, this is for like religious studies as well. And I said, right, create worksheets looking at this. It's got to teach the students this. It's got to ask them, so it's got to have like a multiple choice quiz, or it's got to have a debate based on this. Guide them through it, and that was really handy as well. That really, really helped me, rather than me spending half an hour, or also just giving the kids, here's a textbook. It was like, well, actually, this is relevant to what you're doing, and here's a new resource for you. So that's been handy there. I also use it for differentiation. So obviously with sociology, there's a heck of a lot of key terms, a lot of key ideas. So you can put, explain capitalism as if I'm a 15-year-old. Bam, there's capitalism as if I'm a 15-year-old. Now explain capitalism as if I'm a 10-year-old. Bam. And it comes up with a lot simpler kind of idea. Okay. And that, again, is really, really useful, because it helps with those differentiated resources without me having to spend lots and lots of time creating it. So it's been really handy to produce more stuff for the students with the time that I've got. Another thing that I like doing is, you know, in that kind of continuing building relationship with students, you find things that they relate to. So there's a kid in my class who's not so engaged, massive fan of Star Wars. Brilliant. Okay. So I said, explain functionalism in the style of Star Wars, just up it came. It's really, really cool to be able to say to him, you know, this is it in the style of Star Wars. Can you just check this is okay for me? You know, your knowledge about it is a lot more than mine. You know, you have the Force, I don't. So he was able to look at that. And again, I think that's a fantastic tool. And that's what it is at the end of the day. It's a tool for us to use.
Oh, definitely. I think you've come up with, you've used it way more than I have. I feel like you use a greater range of things. I think, and I'll go into it of how you use it effectively. Like I think you alluded to it earlier, it's about the instructions and how precise you've got to be. But yeah, I think I've used it for I made a revision booklet, and I thought, do you know what? I'm just gonna get it right. And I got a bit greedy. I was like getting a bit greedy with it. I was like, can you give me 30 short close questions?
Like, leave me alone.
It's like, no, I don't want to take any more. It's overloading. 30 short questions on qualitative and quantitative research, or 15 and 50. And it literally went like this. I was like, wow. And I was like, can you do, like, there you go. Like, obviously, you don't say, you write. You've got to 15 closed questions on qualitative research from a sociological perspective. But it just did it. And so I got them to that. And then I got one thing I'm really, really using it for, because it has got limitations, I'm using it for not waggles, but like how to make it better. So I'm going... writing a sociology essay title in there, like evaluate the sociological explanations of ... and then it produces it. And like you said, I've got to read it first, because, you know, there's some bits they put in. It's not inaccurate, but maybe not. It's maybe a different,
not in the style that you want, or including
it might have like more American sociologists, for argument's sake, that I personally have never heard of, or do you know what I mean? Or there might be, like you said, just the phrase of how it's written, and just a couple of things, just a tweak. It was not like me rewriting a whole essay myself. And then actually I'm okay with it not looking appropriate, because that's the task to the students. Is like, well, and actually by then saying actually there's limitations with AI at this moment in time, then it stops the students thinking they can use it as a homework tool, because they're like, well, actually there's loads of gaps for it. Because you go, oh, this is what it made on there, now we have to improve in it. And they're like, oh yeah, it's good, but it only gives you a CD grade essay, which I know some students would take all day every day, but it allows them to sort of improve upon it. And I found that really useful. What else have I used it for? Made that. Oh yeah, and making items for me. You know, like, like in an exam question, you get an item. I get to make an item for me sometimes. And that's quite good. Because again, I think it's just someone doing that little bit of thinking for you. So it gives you that sort of start, and then you can improve on it. I must admit, I'm a bit of a friend of it as well. But so we talk about sort of the things. So I've said that we've both spoken about, you've got to be very particular with what you write. Can you explain that a little bit more about that in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, so again, it's something you learn. Like you said, as soon as I found it, I was there, caught in this kind of spiral for ages and ages. Also, when I found it, it was a case of kind of looking around going, has anyone else seen this?
I was thinking, if I tell too many people, is it like, you know, when you used to be like in a nightclub and you're like, you know, it's that Dave, you're not coming in. Like, I thought there was like a volume of like people that could get on. And then once it was like logged on and crowded, that was it. Like, there was no more. I don't know. So I was like, I'll just tell people that I think might find it interesting.
Yeah, it's like not wanting to tell people about this amazing band in case they become too mainstream. The appeal goes. But yeah, so for me, like you said, using it, setting particular instructions, you know, you can just say to it, tell me about a new write. You could just say it, it's very open, but I want it to set certain criteria. So I always say, you know, for a GCSE student, because otherwise it could give stuff that's more kind of A level or beyond. So I say, you know, GCSE student, I always say, you know, you've got to include this many questions or these types of questions. Or you can give it a piece of text. So you can cut and paste text into it and say, create a multiple choice quiz based on this text. And again, It's not always perfect. I'll tell you what I found the other day. Again, I'm just very excited when I say these things. If you find a YouTube video and it has the transcript, so the transcript of what the commentator is saying, put that into ChatGPT and say, create a quiz on this, or create a multiple choice quiz on this.
Oh.
So they watch the video and then they do that. So I did that with
Oh.
a lesson on Stephen Lawrence the other day. So we watched like a
Wow.
12-minute documentary, but there were key points that I took from the transcript, put it in there, and asked it just to create a quiz. And
Oh, that's
it's stuff
good.
that I could do, but it will take me a long time. And
Mm.
when as educators, we have a lot of things we're trying to do. Anything we can do to save time but still provide quality education for our students, I don't feel guilty about.
No.
Because I feel they're getting a good deal, because I feel that because I'm still creating them. I feel that I'm still, there was one when I first did it. I did one on the 5 pillars of Islam, and I looked at it and went, that's not right. I had to still use my own professional judgment, or to change things or to add things. What I also like about it is it's almost like a conversation sometimes. So if it does something you're like, that's not quite right, you
Stop
can say,
generating.
yeah, and every time you generate them, and it saves it. It saves the
Yeah.
kind of conversation, as it were, that you've had. So I can go back into it and have a look later on if it's something that I've created, it's on there, and I can go back to it. I think the other thing we haven't mentioned at this point that some people might not be aware of is that I use the free version.
Mm.
So there is a free version and there is a paid for version. The paid for version costs more. It costs more than free, obviously, but it's not that much. I don't think it's something I could put into my budget, but it's the advantages of having the paid version is it's quicker, and you said earlier on about if too many people go on, would that be a problem? Sometimes that is the weakness of ChatGPT, is that which I've seen before, not so much recently.
No, I
If
haven't.
a
No.
lot of people are on it and a lot of people are using it, it can kick you off.
Yeah, I must admit the free version. Never. I mean, that Christmas period, I did when I was like lots of other people up to 1 o'clock in the morning doing it. But other than that, there hasn't been that same degree of, I don't know, that people chucking you off. And so the things I think
Mhm.
you've highlighted from that is you've got to be really focused on your instructions. Whether that's what age group you're targeting it the piece of work for, the instructions you're giving it in key concepts or theoretical perspectives. You have to engage it once you've used it. So obviously you have to look at it and just fact check it, or is it the right style. And I think, like you said, it's not a case of it's removing the role of the teacher. It's allowing us to, I think, I mean, maybe we haven't really got a balanced debate. It would almost be nice if someone said like it's not good. But what I was thinking
Yeah.
is, the good thing is you can stretch and challenge the students in something else. So, like, for example, you're not dealing with that sort of low end thinking skills, those sort of like low order thinking skills. You can sort of stretch and challenge the students in a different way. I suppose the key is to use it like a tool. I suppose it's the same as a calculator. Going back to your analogy earlier, that if you type something into a calculator, I know when I'm adding up my percentages for when I'm giving an exam out, that doesn't look right. I hope I do. The exam was out of 24, but just give me an answer
Yeah.
out of 36. You do stop yourself and you go, that doesn't look right. I'm going to add it up again. You wouldn't just write down a number. And I suppose it's the same with ChatGPT. I know we're both super fans by the sounds of it, but are there any? What if imagine we were with our sociological imaginations on, we were quite critical of it. What might someone who is anti it say?
I can, even though I am a bit of a fan of it, with regard to my department, it's just me. I've got some colleagues, one of whom does not like technology at all. Is very kind of old school, which is absolutely fine. But they don't want to get kind of involved with it because they don't even get like social media and stuff like that. So nope. My other colleague is almost anti it to a certain point. They find it impressive, they find it very clever, but they don't like the idea of giving stuff over to giving kind of their roles. That, if you get what I mean, they almost feel maybe guilty about it, about giving too much of things that they feel they should be doing over to an AI generating tool. So I do understand that. I think the other concern that some people have is, like we said about plagiarism, or can students use it to pretend to do essays when it's not actually theirs? And unfortunately, that is true. And so when I have told students about it, I told them about it as a revision tool. Because I do for GCSE sociology, there's a lot of AQA stuff, but I think I said before, we're Educast. There's less stuff out there, and a lot of stuff with sociology. If the kids are just left their own devices to Google stuff, and for legal reasons, other search engines are available. When they do that themselves, they often end up with A-level university stuff, and then they get even more confused. So when I've told my students about ChatGPT, and I said, use it as a tool, because you can put something in. I said, if you don't understand something, type it in from a textbook and simplify it. Ask him to simplify it. And I said, and said that's how I said use it as a tool. And I also said at the end of the day, in the exam hall, it's you. So you could, and you could spend all this time learning stuff on ChatGPT, and I hope you do. And even if you do plagiarize an essay, I didn't say this bit to them. Even if you do plagiarize an essay, you're reading it, you are still learning. Okay, you're still looking at it and going, is it, does this make sense and things like that. So you are still learning in some way. And I think the ones that would cheat would be the ones that possibly wouldn't do fantastically anyway. But at the moment in the exam, it's you. You can't suddenly just pull out your phone and check on ChatGPT. You certainly can't ask your mate next to you. They frown on that. So I said you need to use it as a tool. And that's what I'm saying about telling students how to use it. I'm yet to use it in a lesson, as in to get students actually like using it on computers or something.
Okay.
I haven't done that. I think I will in the future. Obviously, there's a thing where you have to create an account for it. So my account's just my Google account. It's not asking for like credit card details or anything like that. Although, as I said earlier on with my colleagues, that's one of the things that put him off creating his own account. Because he was like, "He wants my name," so he didn't want to give it to him. I was like, "You've given your name to like 100 people today." So yeah, that would be my thing, is making sure that if you're going to use it with students, to make sure that they use it wisely.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, they're going to find it anyhow. So it's like, you can't not, like, I don't know, use it in a sort of a safe setting as such, because they're going to use it anyhow. And I suppose this is sort of maybe a more pedagogic question for just education full stop. And this is one of my students said this to me, and I thought, well, actually, that's really a valid and interesting point. The question was, I might say it incorrectly, but basically, why are we assessing things that a bot could respond for us? Is that really the best tool of assessment if the bot can do it? And I was like, wow, drop the mic moment. I mean, shouldn't we be thinking about things that are assessing thinking rather than something that could be, replicated for a bot? And I was like,
This is true. My answer to that, though, would be that you need people to tell you whether what the bot is saying is true or not. You need someone to be able to check it. I said we're putting stuff in and finding inaccuracies, because it's only as clever as the information it's got access to. So you need people to be able to tell you whether it's actually true or not, whether it's actually accurate or not. But in the future, I think there is a lot of stuff, but that's like you say, it's a much bigger pedagogical question. Are we testing skills of children that they will never ever use again? That's the thing.
And that is the question, isn't it? And I think that's where maybe that's thinking more out the box. But I mean, for right now, I think it's something, as long as we engage in it and we are using it as professionals, I think there's, and I think it's taking baby steps. I think, play around. I mean, for me, my tip would be just to play around with it to begin with, just see, like you said, the more information you give it and then you stop it, the better it becomes, and it sort of memorizes bits of the content so you can add to it as well. And obviously using it safely, not adding anything that's, data protection or anything like that, but general theories and stuff, then obviously definitely. Are there any sort of final top tips to anyone that might be thinking about using GTP?
For me, as a head of department, and if you have to write policies, it's great. So if you need to, with PSHE and stuff like that, you need to create these policies. It's brilliant. You say, write me a policy including this, and this, and again, use it as a tool. It's such a time saver. That's the real thing for me, how much of a time saver it is. And I'm learning as well. I'm learning from the responses it's giving and going, oh, actually, that's a really cool way of looking at it. I like that. I've not thought about that before. So it's helping me develop as a practitioner. It's helping me develop as as a subject leader. I would say to people just to try it. I said there are so many new ones coming out that it is something that is not going to go away. So to be honest, it's probably good to get on the bandwagon early and see what you can do to do with it, so you can use it more and more and more. I mean, just saying that actually, I before I started this, I did actually put some of the questions we were going to look at into ChatGPT.
Oh, right. Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Just going back to that last one, sorry, the first one, very beginning, what is ChatGPT? I asked it to explain it as if I was a 10-year-old as well. So if there are still some people who have managed to make it to the end of this and are still I'm still not sure what it actually is. It's got here, I'm a computer program that is really good at talking. Like a human. I've learned a lot of things by reading a lot of books, stories, and websites. And now I can answer your questions and have a conversation with you. It's like having a smart friend that you can talk to and ask anything you want. And I thought that's beautiful.
That's beautiful. I think that is quite a nice place to end it on. Definitely, I think it's good. I think it's what else it is, and I think use it wisely. And I suppose at the end of the day, hopefully our listeners would have got some tips from how you've used it within your lessons. So thank you for your time and enjoy using. As always, lovely speaking to you. I'm sure we'll get you on again. Very approachable, and you've got some great ideas as well. So thank you, Jon, and have a lovely extended weekends as well. So have a lovely extended weekend. All right, you take care. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye bye.